I like to describe it as a match that only God could make in heaven, because the original monks arrived in New Orleans in 1872 thinking they had an invitation from the Bishop of New Orleans, the Catholic Bishop of New Orleans, to establish a monastery there. But when they arrived, he said, "What are you talking about? I'm looking for missionaries, but not monks." And so for 3 years, these two monks were looking for a permanent home, but they couldn't find the right situation where they were really wanted for whatever reasons. It was very complex. At the same time, the American Indian peoples were being removed to this territory because the increasing white population didn't want them in the land where they were trying to expand, and so they were being removed. And this territory, I suppose, was chosen because, to put it bluntly, no white people wanted this territory yet. And so I say that the monks that nobody wanted went to a land that nobody wanted to serve a people that nobody wanted. We have been in what is now Oklahoma for 142 years. We came when it was Indian territory in 1875. Our founders were from France. And at that time, after the Civil War, a larger number of Native American tribes and peoples were being relocated to Indian territory. And a good number of these tribes and nations were Catholic and needed Catholic ministry and Catholic education, but there was no structure of the Catholic Church in the region. Our two monks were looking for a place to establish a permanent location for our community. And so when the bishops of the United States established the Indian Territory as its own region of the church, they asked us as monks to come and provide that ministry and the education programs to Native American people. So we explored the whole territory and eventually entered into an agreement with the Citizen Potawatomi Nation that had recently been moved into the territory and established Sacred Heart Abbey and Academy and Mission. Now, that was a home base for us, and we ended up actually establishing some 45 Catholic church communities around what is now Oklahoma. And we also established, interestingly enough, 3 schools for African American children who were the children of persons who had been slaves of Indian tribes. So the original Sacred Heart, which was begun in 1876, had the monastery, a school for boys of all ages, from elementary through college, a school for girls, and similarly it had a convent where Sisters of Mercy lived to teach the girls. It was a whole working farm, and it's like a small village, and all of it burned one night in 1901. People, miraculously, there was no loss of life or any injuries, and the whole complex burned in about 30 minutes. People don't always remember that we rebuilt at Sacred Heart, and so there was a second school complex, a second monastery, and a second convent, but we moved from there to Shawnee after rebuilding at Sacred Heart. I'm very proud of my predecessors in community in the sense that those first generations of monks very closely identified to the Indian people. And so, for instance, in the first land run in 1889 that opened the central part of what is now Oklahoma to white settlement, one of our monks, who was from France, preached a very fiery sermon to the non-Indian people who had lined up on the banks of the South Canadian River waiting for that land run. And he was reminding them that the land they were entering was not empty, that it was inhabited, it had people there. And he used the language of the story of Exodus in the Bible, saying that if you treat the people here unjustly, their cry will reach the ears of the Lord, and there'll be consequences. And so I'm very proud of that advocacy that our monastic community had for the Indian people at the time. Today, St. Gregory's Abbey has 21 members in the community. Our monks range in age from 34 to 95. We all have different personalities, different interests, different skills and abilities, and in our different stages of development in life. And really that's what makes for a healthy community. And so some of our monks have been dedicated in their lives to more manual pursuits, manual labor on the grounds and the gardens, taking care of our campus, working in the greenhouse, taking care of the facilities. But we all live in this community and follow the same pattern of life each day in terms of our schedule. Our daily schedule doesn't vary much. We have a rising bell at 5:30 in the morning, and through the course of the day, we gather for communal prayer 5 times a day. So together, we gather in the church at 6 in the morning for a prayer service that lasts about 35-40 minutes. Then we have a break for about 30 minutes, during which time one can eat breakfast, which we eat in silence. And then at 7:15, we gather in the church again for lauds, or our morning praise, which lasts about 30 minutes. Then we have a work period from 8 in the morning till noon. Then at 12:05, we gather again in church for our prayer. It's our midday prayer, which lasts about 10 minutes, followed by lunch, during which we can talk at lunch. Then we have another work period from 1 to 4 o'clock, 1 to 4:30. At 5 o'clock, then we gather for the celebration of Mass each day. And we follow that by our evening meal, which we eat together in silence. We start together and we stay there at table until the last person is finished. And then we rise and end the meal with prayer. We eat in silence, but someone is reading from a book during the meal. And so we're being nourished, not only physically, but also mentally and spiritually. We follow that by a period of recreation, which is something that can be lost in our culture. It's a period of about 45 minutes where we gather in be the equivalent of a living room. We call it our community room, and some monks play dominoes, and some play cards, some read the paper, some watch the evening news and then the first part of Wheel of Fortune, and sometimes squeeze in a nap or read quietly, but we're all there together, affirming this value that we have for each other. And then we gather one last time in church at 6:45 for our evening prayer or Vespers. Again, that lasts about 30 minutes. After Vespers, the evening is open. In the summer months, there's still plenty of sunshine to do outdoor tasks. There's no curfew or bedtime, but that bell rings the next morning at 5:30 to start the cycle all over again. So it's a way of life that is designed to promote a balance between prayer and work and study, a balance between solitude and community, a balance between dialogue and silence, and we strive for balance. I suppose what I would want people to know and to realize is that from the earliest centuries, monasteries have been places of hospitality, that we welcome people to come to experience our way of life, to find some type of meaningful assistance wherever they might be in their lives, and that we also can benefit from their visit, to come to see God at work in those around us. And that's people of all faith or no faith, to be able to share this life together in this place that is set aside for this journey. So I would want people to know that the Abbey here is a place of hospitality, and the values that we try to live are human values that perhaps are very connected, rapid, short attention span culture that's filled with all kinds of noise could benefit from. It's to step aside, to experience the healing that can come about in a lifestyle of balance, of silence, of reflection, and attentiveness to what's happening in the world around us. So I say, welcome. come and visit.